What is going on? Just waiting for people to show up. Live stream, you know. Wow, it went sharp. Just, I set it down and it went sharp. Always good to tune. See if we have anybody. People are still recovering for the new year. Hey Dan, happy new. Hey Holly, good morning. Good to see you. We should probably do another Zoom. May have someone who has longer Zoom to, has Zoom Pro or something to host. That way it can go longer than 40 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it is that we can, the max is. Pepper's in the house. Pepper's on Christmas break still, right? Morning, Bruce. It's a minor version of Norwegian Wood. That would be Dorian. And then minor would be. And then Phrygian would be. Let's see. Yeah, it would be that, yeah. That would be. It just sounds Irish. Let's see. Hey, Gary, good morning. Joseph, good morning. Good to see you. Got a lot of rain. It all goes down to Long Beach where Joseph is. All the water in LA washes downhill into the ocean. It's like they don't capture nearly enough of the water that we get on the rainy days. Got a pretty darn good storm drain system and water capture system, but for like floods, but then they just dump it in the ocean. And then you can't go swimming because all the crap off the streets goes into the ocean, and then it's like, oh, we can't swim for the next 3 months or whatever. Not that I swim in the ocean. Hey, Bruce. Yeah, we're going to keep talking about chord embellishments, fills, and riffs. Probably almost need to define that, but I can't ever, there's no hard definitions for these terms. Chord embellishment is pretty obvious. It's like you take a D chord. That would be chord embellishments. Or even the might kind of be a pseudo chord embellishment. More of a melody, incorporating a melody into it. The thing that's so great about that guitar part is the melody's in the middle of the guitar fretboard, or in the middle of the strings instead of on top. They could, they could have gone. Oh, it goes to G. That's right. That's right. And I love that. That's one of the things I love about the song. It's one of the first songs I ever really played, particularly Beatles songs. And I love it because the melody's in the middle. I love that kind of voice movement. It's much more. It's more subtle. What's a good example of that? I mean, when we take a C chord and we go, that's a little bit, to me, a little bit more subtle. You can hide it a little bit than this. Now, technically, I guess if you do that with an A and you got that open E string on top, you've got a middle, the movement's happening on middle strings, and there's kind of a drone note on top. But yeah, it's Norwegian wood. Sam, Happy New Year. My condolences. I was thinking about you on the 1st. Oh my gosh. Was it the 1st? Is that when they played? All those games were on yesterday? No. When were those games? New Year's Eve? I was kind of shocked to see those playoff games played when they were played. And it was like, oh, man, Sam's going to be so bummed. And then, so Michigan lost, right? Which was a bummer. And, not completely unexpected, but, and maybe you can help me, Sam. I don't know if, see, they don't really organize this very well. It's hard to find those games on this app. Okay, here we go. Okay, TCU and Georgia. Are they both SEC schools? My cousins were at the TCU game in Phoenix, and they were rooting for TCU because they both went to TCU. But they're both from Chicago, my cousins, but they live in Phoenix now. Let's see, both the games were pretty crazy games. Yeah, that Michigan TCU game was amazing. And Michigan should have won that, I guess. They were technically undefeated. And then the Ohio State Georgia game. So here's my question for you, Sam. Ostinato tonight. Oh, ostinato. Okay, I'll explain an ostinato here in a second. So my question for Sam is, when Michigan lost, did you root for Ohio State, or can you never root for Ohio State? That's what I was thinking. After Michigan lost, I was like, oh, who's Sam going to root for? Is he going to root for Ohio State? Oh, it's Big 12. Okay, TCU's Big 12. All right, but Georgia's probably going to win, so then it's SEC all over again, right? Because Georgia's SEC. I just don't really follow college football. In fact, it just gets more and more confusing as teams keeps changing. What is it? USC is going to the Big Ten. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. And Notre Dame's not in any conference. It's all so confusing. So the term ostinato, usually when I hear the term ostinato, it means some kind of repeating high figure. Okay, so maybe something's going on like down here, and you might hear. That could be like, or maybe. So I wouldn't really consider that a hook or even a melody. It's almost more in lieu of a string line that's just holding up really high above everything else, right? Like sometimes I'll use the spider capo to play a note, to have a note on top. And I haven't done this in a while, but if I want a certain note, say G or a D note, to ring out. Okay. Now I can play in the key of D. Nothing I do on the first string is going to matter. You saw me lift off my middle finger off of the E string and it didn't change. That doesn't change because I've got the spider capo pushing down the first string at the 10th fret. But so that would be not unlike what you might orchestrate in a piece of music where you have the strings kind of holding a note really high. That would be called a drone as opposed to a pedal tone. A pedal tone would be more something like if you were to do at low D playing the whole time, and so that's a pedal tone. We do this all the time playing guitar. We'll do like in the key of G, we'll do like, I mean, I'm not even changing the top two strings, let alone the top string. I've got a D and a G on top here of a G chord, of a C2 chord, of an E minor chord, of a D chord. So that could be technically, on a musical terminology, be referred to as a drone. What I think of an ostinato is kind of a moving drone. You could have an ostinato anywhere in the range of the music. You could have it in the middle of the music. You could have it in the basses. But oftentimes it's kind of like, hey, do some kind of ostinato thing, you know, on. So an ostinato could be a high chord, just repeated over and over and over and over again. That's kind of my understanding. Hey, Pearhead. Bob Schumann's in the house. Hey, Brad's here. Club B&T. Happy New Year, Brad. We had a very, very mellow New Year's because, you know, it fell on a Saturday, which meant that I had to get up early on Sunday to play. And I don't really do anything. I haven't done anything on New Year's Eve in a long time. I used to play a lot I had a big band that would always get a gig on New Year's Eve, and it paid okay. You know, I needed to take the gig because I needed the money. And then on the way home, you spend your time dodging drunk drivers. Essentially, it wasn't that bad, but I did see some stuff coming home. I'm sure you all have stories. That's late night driving anyway. So, where did we leave off last week? Did we get to? I didn't check. Oh, surely I checked. Oops, no, it's not what I want. I want this. Is this the third or fourth lesson? If it's the fourth lesson, I've probably already gotten to some minor chords. I just don't remember doing them. Oh, I have 113,000 subscribers. That's cool. All right, so content. There we go. Live. Chord embellishments. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I've done for this number 4. So I must have already done some stuff on in minor chords, and we can. I'm going to touch on all of them. So it's really not going to be an issue today. What I wanted to talk about today is I've talked about this many times. I say this all the time when someone asks me, "What's the most important thing what should I learn on the guitar? Most important thing?" And it's kind of like hard to come up with one thing per se. But with acoustic guitar, you know, I kind of from 35 years of private instruction, from 50 years of playing guitar, and basically 45 years of playing professionally. I can kind of come up with overviews that most people don't have. You know, I can look down on a career. I can look down on lots of guitar players' abilities or inabilities, and see what's lacking, or what's something that can help fill the gaps, and what's a major thing that they need to know. And what I tell you, what, if you're really interested in just playing acoustic guitar, just strumming out, banging out songs on the acoustic guitar, and there's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody has to be a guitar god, nor should they be. But the thing you want to do is try to get down as many different kind of grooves and rhythms as you can, because a lot of players, I've said this before, will play the same groove on every song, and it makes their playing very boring, and maybe not to them, but to everybody else listening. So if your goal, and this is, like I've said, the most fun I've ever had playing guitar is just playing around a campfire with friends. You know, Brad, not unlike what you do at your house, that kind of thing. You know, that's when you have fun. It's just fun. You know, the times I've had a guitar and I've sat around, you know, with family and friends at the lake house or something like that, and playing guitar and singing, people singing songs, stuff like that. And I'm really bad at knowing songs. I have friends that are really good at knowing like a million songs, and can sing them and everything, know the words and all that. And I'm just like, yeah, I've never been that guy. So, but if you're doing the same strum groove on every song, it's going to be kind of boring for everybody. You need to kind of have a repertoire of 5 to 10 to 20 to 100 to a billion different grooves. I kind of don't, when I'm playing rhythm guitar, I don't necessarily play the same groove all the way through a song. I might change a groove on a verse to a chorus. When you're writing, you can do whatever you want. If it's not what's in the song, then you might, you know, if you're playing a cover song, you might have a problem with people going, what song are you playing? Oh, I'm playing this. But anyway, almost any song can be broken down into some basic chords. And even you can change the key of any song to make it kind of fit into a basic G, C, D, E kind of structure. So that's the overall thing that I say to acoustic guitar players is learn a lot of strumming grooves. Make sure you try to pick up a new one every couple months. Maybe invent some yourself. The best source of getting strumming grooves is to imitate drummers. So listen to a groove on a drum machine, or listen to a groove on a record, and then try to emulate that groove somehow, even just with this. There's the Bo Diddley groove. I should do a video on the Bo Diddley groove. I've never done that one. What was Bo Diddley's favorite strumming groove? Well, it was the Bo Diddley groove. That makes sense. Let me write that down so I don't forget that, okay? Because I'm always looking. I've done 3 of those. Jack Johnson was obviously the least watched, but John Lennon one was watched pretty well. I can't really come up with a groove that Bob Dylan did consistently, or Tom Petty, or even Johnny Cash. If Johnny Cash, maybe I could come up with a consistent groove for Johnny. Let's see, where's my desktop here? Where's YouTube ideas? Bo Diddley's, I'm not sure how to spell it. I'm going to guess, favorite groove. Okay, now back to the show. All right, so the thing I want to talk about for chord embellishment, fills, and riffs, one of the best ways to kind of come up with some riffs, or to one of the things you want to do is make sure that you keep going. You know, that's where playing with a click, or practicing with a click or a drum machine can be really helpful, because what often happens is if you're playing in G, and you got a real simple chord progression like that, and you go off and try to do a riff, you may come back and find that you're not on a downbeat anymore. Okay. adding beats, I'm taking away beats. That's you've got to keep the groove going. That's number one. And so what you'll notice is like a lot of bluegrass players, doesn't really matter what kind of style of music you're talking, but a fill may just be that. That's a fill or an accord embellishment, but I call it kind of a fill. And usually I think about fills going in between two chords, you know. Where you're kind of a bass player and a guitar player. And what you can do is just start to map out some different ways you can go from G to C, C to G. So one. We should work on some of those too. But one way you can, one of the things, so the reason I mentioned the most important thing for acoustic guitar players to know is because I want to talk about the most important thing for electric guitar players to know. And that would be learn your fretboard. Like just know it up and down. You're going to find that comes in handy. Electric guitar players spend a lot more time playing up here than they do down here. Acoustic guitar players tend to play down here. Electric players tend to, and this is not a hard, fast rule, of course, but you tend to spend a lot more time up in the higher registers and the higher frets. And so it's always good to know what notes you're playing for many, many reasons, but it'll also start to unlock chord theory. It'll start to unlock mode theory, music theory. It'll help you communicate to others. Oh, Sip, what did I do? What? Hand jive? Yeah. I always think of that as the Bo Diddley groove. I'm all of a sudden hearing thirds as being off now. It's like, dang it. I watched a video about tempered tuning and I'm like, gosh darn it. You know, normally you think, no, that's perfect. You're like, that's a perfect key. No, it's not. That G sharp is not, is flat. Anyway. So if you know, like for example, one of the things I like to do if I'm playing in the key of E, I love to have, get that low, right? And we've all done it. Okay, well what you're doing there, and that's a chord embellishment, right? You could just play E. Okay, this kind of applies to blues or old time rock and roll kind of vibes. And you could go up to the 7th. And what we're playing is the 5th, which is B, a C sharp, which is the 6th, and a D natural, which is the 7th. But we could keep going up the fretboard, and every one of these notes up on the A string will have a different kind of relationship to the E note in the bass. So there's the root in the 5th, root in the 6th, root in the 7th, root in major 7th. That's a great sound there, major 7th to the. Now we have two E's, so it's a root and a root. Isn't that a great sound? B to C sharp, D sharp to E. So it's the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the root. Now I can keep going. And again, as we learn the fretboard, you'll know you can do one string at a time. You don't need to learn all the strings at once. But the nice thing, one of the things you want to be able to do is play any scale up on any one string, and because you'll be able to use those as transitions to move it up and down the fretboard. and play. In higher register, if you're hearing something higher, you want to transition to that. You know, oh, on this string I can go up these notes in the key, and then I'm up here at the 12th fret, whatever. So that's a trick that all electric guitar players use. They start, they'll use a string to transition. Now they may not know where the notes are written. You drank because Pepper drank. That's funny. Sip. I'm like, what? I don't know what I said. I had a band in high school. The Boy from New York City. Now that's Korean, right? Aya, aya, oyo, uyu. So if I keep going, I have this E here. If I keep going to F sharp, I love that. I've got the G sharp now. So play this 7th fret, E, 9th fret, F sharp, and then we have the G sharp, which is the 3rd in the key of G. But I can go like, man, I could do. That's a great sound. I'm going 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. And I go up to the A note. The 12th fret of the 5th string is A, and I can do an E sus chord to an E chord. If I want, I can get a couple more strings here. If I want to fill it out a little bit, because there's our E chord right there. Okay, but it's kind of like doing. That sounds very Tom Petty. This sounds, I don't know, more like Smashing Pumpkins. And because the strings are squishy, you can bend them. At the 12th fret, they're as squishy as they're ever going to get. So you. I can speak Korean. Kamsahamnida. Anaseo. That's it. That's all I know in Korean, except the alphabet. Aya, aya, oyo, uyu. Okay, so that's like some stuff. Now, if we were in E minor, and you can keep going, obviously, up the fretboard. I would recommend it. We get to the 5th up here. So I'm going B, A, G, A, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, D, E. You get kind of, here's where you find out if it's a E minor, or E Aeolian, E minor, or E Dorian. If you hit a C sharp, you know it's E Dorian. But again, say you're playing. That's kind of basically using the open string as a drone, the opposite of a, as a pedal point, the opposite of a drone. I think of drones as being, a drone is a drone, but I think of drones as being higher, kind of like on a bagpipe, and now a banjo, you got that drone string, which is technically in the thumb position, but it's also the higher. Strahle, Dennis is in the house. Good to see you, Dennis. Guten Morgen. That's not quite right, but guten. No, you're in the. It's evening there, so you could fill libraries with stuff I don't know. In fact, they do. You can also know, like, for example, on the E minor chord's a great example. The top 3 strings, that's an E minor triad right there. We've got the third, we got the fifth, and we got the root. Okay. Nope. Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. All right. It works right for E minor because we have 3 strings. We could do it with E major, but we'd have to go just the top 2 strings. So we but with E minor, you know, I could do that, play the 2nd fret on the 4th string, and play the top 3 strings after that, and then go up 2 frets. If we're in the key of E minor, the next note would be F sharp, which creates that beautiful minor 2nd. Yeah, that sounds very Irish, doesn't it, David? That minor 2nd, the major 2nd to the minor 3rd sound. You go up another fret, now we get unison, we get 2 Gs. We go up another fret, we get A. And now we're technically pitch-wise above the G string, so now that G string is actually going to be the lowest note. And now we're at the highest note. That E is the same as this E. If I want to be, that was minor. If I want to be Dorian, So utilizing open strings and fretted notes up and down the fretboard can give you a good fill, because what it's doing is keeping the harmony going. It's not just a lick. I'm not just going. I'm keeping the thing going. Instead of stopping everything to play, or right? Does that make sense? So that's one of the things, one of the tricks you can utilize to create chord embellishments, fills, and riffs, is playing against open strings. And all the chords we've done, you know, C chord, we're playing a C. There's going to be different notes we can play against, but like we can play against that E string on top. But I also, whatever works there will work with the G string. See that? Or I could play the E and the G string on the outside of the melody. Oops. I mean, there's ways of making it more musical than what I'm doing. I'm just kind of strumming it and playing it. My favorite ones to do is just over G. I really like doing that one, which is just playing the 5th fret on the D string, which is a G note, against the open G string, like you're tuning, and then go down to the F sharp, and then go down to the E, and then go down to the D. Try that with me. You can use any finger. You could use one finger if you want, but I think I probably generally, it just depends on what I'm coming from and going to, what finger I'm going to use. But I'm playing 5th fret open. These are on the middle 2 strings. 4th fret open, 2nd fret open, and then open, open. Hit the G string, and with the G chord you could also hit the open B string. It would be totally fine. It's a good transition to the C chord. And that, what I was doing there, was doing the same descending scale, the G, the F sharp, the E, and the D, but I'm starting up here on the G at the 10th fret of the A string, and I have the D string and the G string that I can let ring out against it. Makes sense. All right. Happy New Year, Catherine. So pretty. Yeah. So, and I, that those rubs when you play the G, the F sharp against the G, if you were to play them out of context and just do that, people would be like, ah. But when you play them in context or make a musical, they sound gorgeous. So it's amazing how that works with music. Music, these things, it's probably true of any art genre or whatever. When two things rub against each other, they're like, well, that's not right. And then when you play a chord, when you fill it out, it's like, oh wow, that sounds gorgeous. So, like for example, even at like a major 7th, it's like, oh, what is that? And then you play, like, wow, that's a beautiful chord. Oh yeah, but it contains this. Or even the tritone thing, where you have like, you're like, oh, that's awful, and then you play this. You're like, wow, that's cool. Oh, Catherine has me on the big screen. Hey, Catherine. You gotta clean up in the corner there. It's a little messy back there. I think you should kind of maybe get a little organized, but okay. Well, that was for Catherine's benefit. Yeah, so any chord, all those open chords have open strings, like the D chord. I love that. I mean, that's very Irish, it's very country sounding, but just... It's a good way, nice little transition there to the, I am a little brother. I'm everyone's little brother. Hey, Jan, good to see you. English, please. Oh, I'm just kidding. We lost our Korean friend. This is the same. Yes, very good. This is the same. Yeah, this is the yellow raincoat. Except I was capoed at the 1st fret. Yep. that with a pick in my hand too. That's just a skill I developed just out of necessity. Just having to pick up Cinnamon Girl. That's a good song. That's Neil Young, right? I probably knew Cinnamon Girl at one point. See, here's the thing, Joseph. I learned so many songs teaching guitar lessons. You see Rick Beato do this where he's like, put on a record and plays the chords almost immediately. And people are like, how do you do that? And it's like, man, when I was teaching private guitar lessons, I had 30 minutes to learn a song, get it down on paper, and have a kid playing it. 30 minutes, that's it. That's all you have, And so, yeah, you get really quick at figuring something out, especially if they bring in a record. Now, if it's some long diatribe or they bring in Cliffs of Dover or they bring in Stairway to Heaven or they want to learn Stairway to Heaven or something like that, it's a multiple lesson. But, sorry, yeah. Sleep in my eye. But yeah, that's kind of one of those things where I probably learned Cinnamon Girl 5 or 6, 7 times, but I've forgotten it 5 or 6, 7 times because as soon as that kid was out the door, I had the next kid in there, and they were, well, that kid may have learned Cinnamon Girl, but the next kid wants to learn like Crazy Train. So it's just like, then I learned Crazy Train, and then the next kid comes in and wants to learn some Simon and Garfunkel song, and I'm like, I totally forgot how to play Crazy Train. It's funny. At one point, I did, there were a couple songs, let's see, Blackbird, and this is a tip, kind of for the teachers. Blackbird, Dear Prudence, and Sultans of Swing, I tabbed them out in my own time because when I didn't have a copier or a scanner back when I was teaching, so I didn't have a copy machine in my studio. My studio was just a tiny little box when I was teaching. And then when I moved to California, I was teaching at home. I didn't have a copier. It's not the kind of thing a guitar player would prioritize purchasing. And so, but I had a place I could go make copies. But generally, I'd write the music out and I'd give the paper to the kid and they'd take it and go home, practice. And so I found that, I just never had time I never had the desire to sit down and write out Blackbird, for example, and just have a copy of it that I could make copies from. I eventually did that. Okay, so I eventually had a stack. I went to my copy guy that in Pasadena I always went to, and he would make me a stack of copies and give me a discount and be a nice guy like he always was. He was like, don't worry about it. It's only 3 copies. It'd be like, yeah. I always show up with pennies and nickels and dimes and stuff. But I would have a stack of them. Now, here's the thing was I'd give the kid, okay, we're going to learn Blackbird. Here it is, boom, like that. And for some reason, they never really, from that, they never learned it. Excuse me. There was, if I gave them a sheet of paper with it on it, instead of being, Blackbird would normally be a 2 or 3 lessons, song. And, but if I gave them a sheet and I said, okay, here we go, let's start working through this, and here's how you read it or whatever. It never seemed like they got it as well as if I wrote it out in front of them, phrase by phrase. Okay, now let's work this phrase. Okay, let's go to the next phrase. So it was interesting to me. I stopped doing that. I went back to the method where I just went ahead and wrote it out in front of them, figured it out in front of them, because they were learning while I was doing that, and I didn't ever realize that. I didn't realize how much they were learning watching me figure something out and watching me write it down. In my head, I'm thinking, gosh darn it, I'm wasting 20 minutes of this 30-minute lesson, and this poor kid is just sitting there while I'm doing this, and then we start working it. But those kids did better than the kids where I just said, here's the song, let's work on it. They didn't quite get it as deeply or as thoroughly, or I don't know, it's just weird. How to arpeggiate Fire and Rain and Something in the Way She Moves was a project that I had as instructor work with me. Yeah, and Oh, and so here's another thing too. Like Fire and Rain, was it uncapoed? It's basically A, E minor, and if you start teaching somebody, like I mean, that's great. You pretty much. I had beginners learning that, maybe not with quite the same lilt that James has. Obviously, you're never really going to nail that. Even I wouldn't. But you don't need to play all the riffs and the hooks and the things like that to play a song satisfactory for a campfire setting. Which again, it's like. I mean, you almost want to strum it more than fingerpick it, because if you've got 8 people around a campfire, if you're picking, they're gonna be, once they start singing, you're gonna find that they kind of create a coalition against you, and they'll be like, "Oh, I've seen fire," and you're still like, "Oh, I haven't gotten there yet." So, but if you're banging out, oops. You're banging it out. What is it? Let's see. What's that chord? It's a D over A, I guess. But the goal is to kind of just keep the whole thing moving. Make sure the chords and the harmonies are out. Not the harmonies that are within the chords. Make sure those are out there for everybody to hear. If you get into the nuance, you're going to find that that's great, and it's a great way to start the song. But after that, you almost want to grab a pick. Part of the reason why I can finger pick and have a pick in my hand at the same time is, right, Catherine. It's, and I didn't even know it was called that. So, but Aslan, what's going on? Say hello. Watch what you can. Let's see. I'll try to make it meaningful. A lot of reflections on my headstock there, huh? That's a very shiny headstock. Martin doesn't do that, I don't think, does it? It's Martin's not shiny. Yeah, Aslan, I was thinking the first multiverse story that I can think of is Narnia. And it was the only multiverse for a long time, I think. Maybe until Back to the Future 2 was like the first multiverse, the first notion that you could create 2 different realities, or that 2 different realities could exist. We just, over the Christmas break, I didn't really talk about any of that Christmas break stuff, but over the Christmas break we watched, I've seen it now. I've seen it 3 times now, maybe. Have I? Everything Everywhere All at Once, really fun movie, but it's like multiverse on steroids. There's literally quadrillions of multiverses, essentially. I mean, the premise is every time you make a decision, hey, Rain Dog, what's going on? Vienna! I love Vienna. Vienna was awesome. I got approached. I actually didn't get a ticket, but I had a cop come up to me in Vienna because we were on the wrong train. we got the city pass for the train, and then we were going to the airport, and I was using the city pass, and they said, no, you have to pay. So I had the kids with me and everything. So it was fine. He was cool. He just took the money and, I don't know, probably bought lunch for himself. I don't know. No, I'm not saying that. But yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once is really crazy. But like the premise is that every time you make a decision, should I have pizza or should I have sushi for lunch? Those are now split off into 2 different realities. It's like, oh my goodness. And they kind of don't emphasize the little decisions, but that's the implication. It's the bigger decisions in life that are made. Should I move to California or should I stay in Indiana, right? We've all wondered what what if our parents had never met, right? Those are all multiverse quandaries, I guess. But there's technically no multiverse. Todd, what's going on? You're new. Good to see you, Todd. So that I was really busy. Normally the week leading up to Christmas, the week after Christmas is really slow for sessions. And Emma wasn't here. She and her husband. It was the first time we didn't have all 3 kids here for Christmas. And Emma and her husband both are in ministries, and so obviously Christmas is a very busy time, and so they weren't able to. Yeah, your wife helps you with your alternate realities. Yeah, exactly. What if we'd had 4 kids instead of 3? What if we'd only had 1 kid? It's like, yeah, you can. I guess, what is it, the Bible verse says? Don't worry about tomorrow. Today has enough problems of its own. Is a proverb, and it's so true. And it's like, you could say the same thing. This verse has enough problems of its own. Don't worry about all the other alternate verses like, what if my parents never met? Well, for one thing, if your parents never met, you wouldn't have any worries at all. So, but yeah, so it was pretty busy. I was working on a Lifetime movie. I worked on a animated feature. It's called Tiger's Apprentice, and that was fun because I was kind of writing and creating kind of a punk rock song. And then I was working on a new TV series, so I played on 2 episodes of that. I think they're going to do 6 episodes. I don't know what it's called yet. They're going to do 6 episodes, so I'm going to probably do 2 more. The composer came over and we worked here. Did I get any new instruments? Well, you saw my mandolin. I played that at church this weekend. We did Unplugged this weekend, so I played mandolin. I think if you go to the Facebook page, I think you can see a replay of the music. I played mandolin, I played 12-string, I played nylon, and then dobro. I didn't go too far off the reservation. I didn't play balalaika, I didn't play charango. But I like those weekends because for me it's a little bit more fun. I need to let Alex play the instrument because he can do all those instruments too. I need to let him do that, and I'll play the acoustic. Normally on those weekends he just plays acoustic, and I get to have fun with the multi-instrument kind of thing. It's just good. I mean, and every one of those. Let's see. Yeah, the dobro was tuned to open G. The guitar, the 12-string was tuned to standard E, but I was capoed. Oh, the nylon was standard also. So 2 guitars were standard. And then I play the mandolin. And I play all those instruments in their appropriate keys, in their, standard keys or standard tunings because it makes it sound more like that instrument. You tune a mandolin like a guitar, it doesn't quite... You can't get the same kind of voicings. You can't play the same kind of scales. And so that makes it, to me, not idiomatic. It doesn't sound like it's supposed to sound. So it's a challenge for the brain, especially when you're reading music, but it's good for the brain, and it's good for my brain. And I would love to never suffer from any kind of Alzheimer's or anything like that. I mean, I have brain farts like anybody, but that's nothing new. And then, Todd, you're getting the big welcome by everybody. Hope you feel welcome. So that, and then, did we go? We didn't go anywhere. So Beth was supposed to go see Emma the day after Christmas, and of course, what airline was her round trip ticket booked on? Oh my gosh. I drop her off at the airport. They take her bag. This is Monday, the day after Christmas. They take her bag, check it in. They check her in the flight. She's able to check in the day before, like on the app, 24 hours before. No nothing. No notifications, no text, no email, nothing. I got nothing. I paid for the ticket. They sent me nothing. And yeah, exactly, Sam. Well, the same thing's true with like the bazookies. Every instrument that I own, for the most part, is tuned the way it's supposed to be tuned. You know, I may make some slight alterations, but I always feel like there's a reason why it's tuned that way. Yes, this is a Christmas sweatshirt, yeah, from Culver. It's big, but it's comfy. And so Southwest canceled her flight. And they didn't just postpone it; it's outright, out and out canceled. And the thing was, Emma and Beth both had that week off. Emma's in ministry; she had the week after Christmas off. Beth's a school teacher; she had that week. They don't have another coordinating week off at the same time until summer. Just unbelievable. So there's no way to compensate that. She got her money. We got our money back for the ticket. And I love Southwest. I've flown Southwest dozens of times. I love the 2 bags, you can have 2 bags and everything. Yeah, they failed hard. It was a combination of effects, because of the way their system is set up. That's part of the reason I like them, is you're not always going to a hub with Southwest. They do direct flights to lots of places. As long as the flights are full, it makes sense. But then their pilots are stranded. Because they'll have a flight that'll go, LA to Vegas to, Seattle to Denver to Dallas. And it may have 3 different pilots on it. It's a very, very complex system. So when that system went down, but the interesting thing was on Twitter, all of the explanations of what really happened came from all the union heads, which tells me this was part of a union, I don't want to say a walkout or a blue flu, but I think that they've been complaining about this a lot. So through the last few years, they've been complaining about the outdated system, and so this is going to get it fixed, but it's going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars to fix their system. So it's interesting, but there was a strike in Denver of their right at Christmas, and so they had a labor dispute in Denver of their ground crew for their fueling hub. So all their fuel comes out of Denver. I don't know how that works, but apparently they didn't have any fuel because of a strike. So that jacked everything up. Yes, and that's the other thing. Southwest does not have any kind of agreements with other airlines. Again, that can be taken advantage of, but that's one of the things. Like when you're booking a flight on Southwest, you have to go to Southwest. Like you won't find them in Expedia or Travelocity, or even I think Google Flights doesn't even list Southwest. And that was the thing. We were trying to find flights for Beth up to Spokane, and she's, it was like everything was $800, and she's like, I don't want to spend $800. I'm like, it's the only way we're going to get you up there. And I said, oh, shoot, what about Southwest? I always forget about Southwest. So I've got the app. I pull up the app, and sure enough, it's $400. It's half the price, and 2 bags, and she's got stuff to take to Emma, like gifts and stuff. So I'm like, okay, well that works, and so that's what we booked. And last week I was supposed to go to see my cousin last Wednesday. When Beth was out in Spokane, I was supposed to go to Phoenix for the day. I booked a 7 a.m. flight coming back at 10 p.m. In Phoenix. The same day. Wasn't even going to take a bag. I was looking forward to it because I wasn't even going to take a bag. No, nothing. Just walk on the plane. People are going to look at me like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you have anything to check? I'm like, I don't care if I'm in the middle seat. It's an hour flight, whatever. I'll just show up and get on the plane. And I was looking forward to it, but that flight got canceled. My cousin's in hospice. So I was like, so I rescheduled that flight, but they wouldn't let me reschedule it for 2 weeks. Every day was unavailable. I was like, I went to the next day. Next day's unavailable. Next day, unavailable. Now they've opened up their schedule again, so I could go back and I could book it this week if I wanted to. He's doing okay. He's at home hospice, pain management stuff. But and he was at that TCU game, by the way, Sam. He and his sister were there. Those are the cousins that were at that game, and that was the bummer too, because the reason I was going when I was going was because there were other cousins that were coming in at the same time, but I'm guessing their flights got canceled as well. So maybe it was going to be kind of like a cousin reunion of sorts. So anyway, that was a bummer. I rebooked the flight. It actually ended up being $50 cheaper, which I didn't really care because it wasn't expensive to begin with. It was like $200. Again, like I said, I'm rooting for Southwest to kind of figure this whole thing out. I know that not many airlines do what they do as far as the big spoke kind of scheduling and the flights doing like this. Most airlines, all the flights come back to the hubs, and I've had problems with airlines like that. I think I told you about the story about the North when Beth and I were flying Northwest on Christmas Eve to Indianapolis, and we through Minneapolis, the hub, and it was a 747, and they held it for like an hour waiting for a flight to come in from Miami because there were 10 people that needed to go to the hub. And I'm like, yeah, it's Christmas Eve. Everyone on this flight is going to miss their connection, and everyone on this, and we were at the very back of the 747. So we were the 300th person in line to get a replacement flight to Indianapolis. It took us, I think it was 36 hours to get to Indianapolis from LA. And Beth had to sing at church. So she got there, and they lost our bag, of course, too. So we didn't have a bag for a few days. I ended up calling it Northworst after that. Maybe we're going to have to call it Southworst. Oh, nice. Yeah, see, sorry, Sam. It looks like we got... pick a difficult open chord for beginners. A lot of beginners have a problem with C chord, and we can go back to our lesson on chord embellishments. Mainly because what happens is you don't have that arch thing going. Your fingers tend to lay down. So if you you might get this C and this C, but then the E doesn't ring because your first finger's laying down. The G doesn't ring because your second finger's laying down. That's why a lot of people play the C2 chord because you can have two fretted notes up here, which you're not going to have muting problems, and then you have it's a super easy change from G to C that way. The only problem is harmonically it gets a little boring because you got this drone. Not only do you have the top two strings drone, you actually have three strings that are identical. But there's lots of cases, a lot of examples of songs that use that. I think that's one of them. I don't think it is. I'm looking through. Yeah. I don't know. I'm looking through you by the Beatles. I'm not sure if is there any video of them playing that song? Is that in Help? I'm looking through you. What's that album? That's from Leo. Is that Leo? What's going on? Yes, I'm live right now, Leo. Leo's like, is this live? So what's a hard chord for some people to play? Open chord wise, I mean, F chord is always a problem for people because it's a bar chord, so that's the opposite of an open chord. But we were playing a song this weekend, and I wasn't playing an F chord. I was using, because we were in the key of D, and I capoed the first fret, so I was playing in the key of C, because I didn't want to play in the key of D. I wanted to play in the key of C for this, because I like the voicings I was using on it. But basically, the 4 chord in the key of C, the 4 chord is an F chord. So if you're on C, that bar chord is hard for a lot of people. But you can do this kind of F major 7 over C. If you have a bass player, the bass player is going to cover that F. You don't need to necessarily get that F. Sometimes you could do like this F2 chord. So like the F major 7 over C is nothing on the bottom string, and then 3rd fret, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 1st fret, open. Now if you feel a little stronger, you don't like the sound of that major 7th on top, that E note on top, you can bar your 1st finger and do this. And so essentially you're doing a mini bar chord, top 2 strings. So it's 3, 3, 2, 1, 1. And you don't worry about that F. Some people can grab that with their thumb. You could do that. Some people would get it that way. That's how I would do it. If I wanted a pure F chord, I would play this, or I would play this, or I might play that. That's not likely. I don't do the thumb thing very often. But the F major 7 can work, but it does take the song in maybe a different direction. You may not want it to go. The other chord that I played was like this kind of, almost like a Tom Petty sounding chord. So I'm playing nothing on the bottom 2 strings, and I'm playing 3rd fret, which is an F, open G, 2nd fret, and another G on top here. And so technically that's kind of like a C sus chord. But if I add this A note here, so if I go 3, 2, 1, 3, now that's a pure F2 chord. Okay, F, A, C plus the 2, which is G. You could also call it an F add 9, which is what we called it back in the 70s. And then I realized, wait a minute, if I can have an F6 chord that's an F triad plus the 6, why can't I have an F2 chord? Because an F9 chord would have a dominant 7th in it. So you couldn't call it F9, but you can call it F2. Am I smart? And so, oh, I saw the McCabe's guitar store, really nice guitar store in Santa Monica, got broken into on New Year's Eve. It's funny because I think they said it happened at 2 a.m., but they're going to, for tax purposes, they're going to say it happened in 2022. I'm like, dang. I mean, it was glass everywhere. It's like, dang, that stinks. Because they have some really cool vintage guitars. It didn't look like a lot I couldn't tell. They didn't post a lot of pictures. I'm reading Leo's diatribe. Oh, you do 12 string with claw hammering. Oh, drop D. Wow, very cool. That's cool. I'll watch some claw hammer videos. I'll get it down for the afternoon, and then I'll forget to practice it, and then the next week I can't do it. Usually claw hammer's played on a banjo, and it's kind of this cool, like, it's kind of like you're almost playing everything with your, like the melody's being played with the index finger. It's kind of like, I can't even imitate it right now. If I had another lifetime, I've got a friend here in LA that he's an older guy, and he plays claw hammer. That's like his forte. And I keep threatening to take a lesson. I actually paid for 2 flamenco lessons, and I've only taken 1. So I got to go back to that guy. And I got that down. Oh, by a tiny capo for a high E and B at the 3rd. That's funny. Yeah, so you could, or a tiny capo, or use a spider capo, but the spider capo will be in the way if I put it at the 3rd fret. You said tiny capo for the high E and B string at the 3rd, yeah. Played just with the E, so G, E minor 7, C2, F2 with a D and a D7. How would D7? I guess you could play, I don't know, play in front of it. Yeah, I guess you could do that. Yeah, it broke his pinky. Yeah, that would be a bummer. I mean, I could play a lot with my 3 fingers, but it would be hard because my pinky would probably want to play something that would be in some kind of, like, I have a little sling for it, or a cast, I guess. What are some other? Yeah, like the C chord is really one of the chords that gives the beginners the most problems. C7 is kind of probably an offshoot of that, because if you got that pinky on you can see the pinky here on the 3rd fret of the 3rd string, playing C7, that doesn't always work. If you're in a key of C, unless you're playing the blues, there's no C7. So it doesn't always work, but it does. I hear it in music, and sometimes I wonder if it's because they couldn't get that G string to ring out, so they're like, I'll just put my G7. And you can still use a C7 in the key of C, but it's going to be a passing chord to the 4 chord. You're creating kind of a 5/4 kind of scenario, which you'll hear it every now and then, like that G7 is not in the key of G, but it sets up that C chord, because again it's that tritone, that F on top of the B that I played in the G7 chord. That F wants to go down to E and that B wants to go up to C, so you get this tension, resolution, and it doesn't matter where you play that tension, that tritone. That F still wants to go down to E and that B still wants to go up to C. So that's a lesson right there in harmonic movement. Okay. Where are we at? How many people do we have here? Well, we got 34. That's not bad. 35. It's pretty solid 35 all morning once we got going. Yeah, I'm not sure how we would do that. Now, like I said, the spider capo would kind of get in the way. I don't know if you can even... Let me see if there's an Amazon link for the spider capo. Hold on, let me see if I can find one. Because I have a bunch of them. I have, because I use them mainly to come up with pop song ideas. Oh yeah, I can. Whoa. Oh, somebody's coming out with a copy of it. Interesting. Well, that hurts the company that came out with the original. It looks like that company may not even exist anymore. Let's see. Oh, I see. Oh, you can get pack of. Okay. All right. Well, let me see if I can create a link for this. This is the original one. It's $30. That's not bad. They're knockoff versions for $15 if you want to get the Chinese version. I'm not even sure where this one's made. But this one has that definitely feels like metal to me. It's this part here, and basically the way the spider capo works. All right, it can be used as a regular capo. It'd just be kind of a pain. You've got these little, let's see, here we go. See those little barbs sticking out right here and here? You can kind of see them there. Okay, those are designed to go just in front of the fret. And then what this does is it pushes down the strings you want. So I'm putting this at the 7th fret, and I get that barb just in front of the string. Just hold on a second. Like so. Then I tighten this. And then I push down, let's say I want the 3rd string and the 2nd string. Is that right? Yeah. So now I've got E, A, D, G. No, I'm sorry, E, A, D, and then I have a D and an F sharp. Because they're being pushed down right here. It's like I'm putting my fingers there. And then open E string. All right. It's a kind of a sweet sound, but it's very drony. You can't really get away from it. almost sounds very hammer dulcimer. I did get a hammer dulcimer. I'm still tuning it. I've had it for 3 weeks and I'm still tuning it. I do have instruments coming. I've ordered some things, so isn't that nice, Holly? But I'm creating essentially an ostinato, right? Which can get really old after a while. So it's like, it's sweet. But how do you get out of this? I use that open 8 to get up here. Concept of the day, ostinato, exactly. But you know, I could do just maybe do a middle string, like get that A note here. So now I just have the A note ringing there. So if I want if I was playing a key of A. So I'm E, A, and then A again, and then G, and then B string and E string. So the only note I'm changing is the 4th string, and it's at the 7th fret. And I'm standard tuning. I could go drop D. Maybe that would make. Oops! How do I see? How do I find the D? I got that G string ringing out. I could go the G and you could have the G, the D up there too. So, you know, it's fun. I've actually written with a spider capo here and maybe one up here or one down here and one up here. And I'll play on either side of it. You can play in front of it or behind it. It doesn't really matter. That's the beauty. A regular capo you can't play behind. It's just down. And then there's cut capos. Cut capo was kind of the original like spider capo in a way. You could just play, like if you wanted to, you could do like at the 2nd fret, create a cut capo kind of thing. And I could create kind of a dadgad tuning. Check this out. So if I go to the 2nd fret. This in there. It's a little tough tough for my old eyes to see those little notches, but you put the notches right in front of the fret and then push it against it and just tighten it down. So it'll work on any guitar, even classical guitars. It's wide enough for that. And then if I push down the 5th string at the 2nd fret, the 4th string at the 2nd fret, and the 3rd string at the 2nd fret. Now I have basically an E sus chord, right? Oh wait, there we go. So it's dadgad up a whole step basically, but it's not a tuning. So I can still play an A chord, D chord. That doesn't change any of my voicings, which is a good thing or a bad thing. If I'm in dadgad, it's because I want all those weird interactions as I go up the fretboard. So the cut capo thing never really made any sense to me. It's like, okay, cool. So I can play in dadgad, but I'm not in dadgad. You know, like nothing's changed really as we go up the neck. It makes it's nice because I can still. But Chronic, if I have a thumbnail, I pick with my thumbnail. If I don't, I use my flesh. It's right now I got a thumbnail, so yeah, I'm digging all weekend I was playing like dobro and I was digging my tone because I could use my nails instead of finger picks. I'm not a big finger pick person on dobro. I will use it, you know, but I have a thumb pick here if I need to do like some picking where I need to have, so I can. Yeah, Dennis, like, yeah, Dennis, we're not talking about stuff for Dennis right now. No, I've never tried mushrooms. It's good for me, Chronic, to get that thumb pick out though every now and then, and just play with it, even if I have a working thumbnail. I've had fake nails put on my thumb, but I just don't like the way they feel. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's like you do have, even though when you cut your nails you don't feel pain, but I do feel sensitivity. Like I can get nuance with my thumbnail or my fingernails when they're real, but when they're, in fact, this nail is. See, my nails, I got to be careful because I try to keep them filed down so they don't get too long. And my ring finger, or my middle fingernail is getting a little bit, it's got a little bit of hump. Normally what I try to do is kind of create a, you know, actually it's funny because the hand is kind of the shape you almost want with a nail. Kind of the opposite. I want it flatter on this side and then more of a hump on this side, so that you're going, when I'm picking, I kind of got my technique from my classical guitar teacher in college to kind of go off the flesh and nail at the same time. No, sometimes I put my little, yeah, so the Chronic I think is talking about, you know, putting the pinky down here. Sometimes I do that, yeah, to anchor for confidence, for knowing where the strings are. Yeah, I mean, I've been studying flamenco, so the pinky comes into play with flamenco guitar. That, where's my flamenco? It's right here, yeah. So everybody take a sip, I'm changing guitars. But like, But yeah, the teacher that I found I like because in his videos he talks about, oh, you should play this groove more subtle than most people play it. Like live, he would play it bombastically. Talk about the rumba in particular, like. That's a rumba sound, but that's a really bombastic one, and that in particular, that groove with the kick. That's all I'm doing. Really, I'm just trying to get a kick snare sound, right? Almost like 4 on the floor. That, oh, by the way, here's, I think this is if you're looking for that spider capo, here's a link to you can buy one. You can buy a pack of them. But that's very, very loud and very difficult to capture in a recording. So if I'm in a studio, I'm trying to record that, I'm going to see these giant spikes on the downbeats, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 3, 1, depending on how you're counting it. But then the chords might get lost in there, and then you over compress and it doesn't sound good. So this guy I was watching him, and he was like, you see, like, just use one finger for the, it's like, and there's literally hundreds of ways to play the rumba groove. Any particular brand or thumb? No, I don't even know what this is. This is a National, I think. Yeah, this is a National large. I'll give you all a link for that. I don't mind getting the. I think I got $13 from Amazon this month, so I'll take it. in residual, you can do all your shopping through the link. Let's see, National. That's who makes resonators, right? National Thumb Pick large. I have large. Oh, this one's kind of cool. Well, this is wow, that's expensive. Oh yeah, I forgot about the Black Mountain one. Those guys sent me picks. Golden Gate thumb picks. I've heard good things about Golden Gate picks. I don't know why this says National on it, but it says Diodero finger picks for acoustic guitar, banjo picks, blah blah blah. Is this just one? But it says National on it. So did Diodero buy National? They must have bought National. Oh, I see. This is 12 picks. That makes sense. I don't think you need 12 picks. Only 8. Well, I don't know what. Maybe they do some kind of weird hybrid thing. Like here's a Golden Gate medium, something like this. I don't know. You can just click on this link and then go and do some discovery, find something you like. Do your Christmas shopping there. So let's see. I always try to be real honest with my earnings on these things. I'm trying to make a living, so I do things for. Hey, Alex, how you doing? Sounding like a National guitar. Paul Simon, that's from Graceland. You're right. Yeah. So for my last 30 days, I've made $8 in commissions. So it's not like I make a lot of money. Total shipped orders is 247. Most of that's probably from me, because what I do when I go Christmas shopping, I'll go click on a link on one of my YouTube videos and then go shopping. I do the same thing when I go to Sweetwater. That way I get a little, I get 2, 3, 4, 5% back from that. So yeah, it's but yeah, if I'm playing classical and I have to, if I don't have a thumbnail, this piece would be hard. It doesn't feel anything like the technique is different. I'm having to do more of a collapse hand. See, if I'm using proper technique, I'm going to have more of an arched wrist like this, kind of relaxed wrist thing. Because the nail's actually coming straight off the thumb like this. But when I'm playing a thumb pick, the pick is coming off the side of the thumb, so you have to change your style. But like that one, that's it. Yeah, because I'm using my thumbnail, but I think that would be really hard to do that part of the song. I guess it would be impossible. But it's definitely better than... oh, on my classical, these are actually... I think these are just D'Addario. Unfortunately, Elixir doesn't make classical guitar strings anymore. They stopped doing that. These are just D'Addario flamenco strings. They're pretty cheap. That's why they're black like that. The other thing is on classical guitar strings, if you have treble strings that are in tune, if they're in tune, and this is a very nice Ramirez flamenco, then you only need to replace the bottom 3 strings. So I have packs and packs and packs of top 3 strings. I don't even know why I keep them. But you can totally just change the bottom 3 strings. Those are the ones that get bad, the silver wound ones. I was working on another one I saw on a YouTube video that I liked. It was kind of good for the 5-string bar chords, yeah. And it had a golpe in it. What a golpe is when you tap the top of the guitar with your fingernail. Usually your middle or your ring finger. It's like... And the hard part about this one for me is getting that bass note with the thumb, getting my hand back into position and just doing this big giant motion and then being precise with the thumb. That's where the guys, the flamenco players, guys and gals, I guess, they see, I'm not hitting that. I'm not hitting the 5th string consistently. That's the thing you almost have to press, like. With the finger, the index finger, I'm getting the G string, but you could hit any number of strings. Yeah, I could, if I wanted to do that. The guy in the video hit the G string, and that does tend to have an interesting tone. It's often the 7th in these chords. The D string is, yeah. Pepper, the D string is the one that's going to break. Eventually, it's just the thinnest one, and eventually the windings get frayed down here, and then it just either breaks or gets really, these are pretty old. You can tell if they're not silver anymore. You can see they're starting to turn black. You almost can't see the string because it's turning the same color as the fretboard. You know they're getting old. So, but I'm kind of at that point where it's like, I'll change them when I break one, unless I've got a really session coming up that I really need to have like really good sounding strings, and I'll change strings right before it. I do have nicer flamenco strings. I had work done on this guitar, and I sent a pack of the D'Addarios, I think, to the yeah, I think it was the D'Addarios. But I don't know that there's a whole lot of difference between flamenco guitar strings and classical guitar strings. Oh. Let's see. Oh, maybe the D'Addaro per Arte, I think it was What I Got or something like that. Yeah, they were like $10 a set or something like that. And maybe go with a heavier tension for better tone. Normal tension, silver plated. Yeah, so I think these, maybe let's see, do they have pictures of them? Now, these look clear. Hold on a second, I gotta mute. Yeah, these look clear. I don't know what, I'd have to get my case out and open it up and see what strings are in there. Purchased another variation, yeah. So I purchased these before. That's why I thought that that's what these were. But the black string is, I don't know. See, the funny thing is Elixir stopped making them because what happens with nylon strings is they really tend to stretch. So, you know, I can put a set of electric strings on my electric guitar 5 minutes before a gig and they'll be fine. I can stretch them out and they'll be fine. Same thing with acoustic. It may be, okay, 10 minutes. Man, with nylon strings, you got to put them on a week before, 3 days before. I mean, I know people that change them right before, but they really take a while to stretch out. Well, there's so much, it's because they're not steel. Like the steel strings, I think, are wrapped around nylon fibers, right? So the way Elixir strings work is I think they generally buy their strings from a manufacturer and then they bring them in and coat them with Gore-Tex. And the Gore-Tex keeps them, and now they're doing a very micro, you know, you can get a very fine layer of Gore-Tex on it. And the Gore-Tex keeps the string from rusting. Well, the problem with nylon strings is when they coated it with Gore-Tex, they would stretch, and then of course the Gore-Tex would be cracked, and they got this furry look. So they, excuse me, they would out of the box, they sounded great. They lasted a while, but then eventually they would get this furry thing going on, and they just couldn't deal with the negative reviews of them. You know, people just didn't like them. Use light, yeah. I think that was light. Oh, it says normal tension. I don't know if they have a light tension for classical strings. Do they have a light string? That would be even thinner, right? I mean, I like a high tension just because it's. I think they sound more immediate, but you're more likely to break them. My hair is kind of crazy, isn't it? I need a haircut. Let's see what else happened. It's cold in here because I have the window closed or the blinds closed on the window because it gets too washed out if I open it up. Like this camera isn't great. It's like there's got to be some kind of software I can use to adjust the aperture, but it's like. I don't know. It's a Logic. What is it? Logi, L-O-G-I. And there's got to be maybe some software I can download or a driver or something where I can make adjustments to it, but it's not really letting me. Hey, Charlie B. Happy New Year. You turned 73. So you were born on the 1st. Well, that's easy to remember. Hey, Luis. Salutations from Argentina. Congratulations to Argentina for winning the World Cup. Oh, yeah, Argentina. Blue and white. I have several Argentinian friends. And I know they were very, very happy. So, you live in Los Angeles. There's a lot of Argentinians in Florida and Miami. That's a bigger Argentinian population, I think, even Los Angeles. Let's see. 49 degrees in Rancho Cucamonga. Oh, you're in Rancho Cucamonga? Why did I think you were in Long Beach, Joseph? Rancho Cucamonga is practically the desert. Is it 49 degrees now in Rancho? Because it's, I mean, I just went to Starbucks and it seemed like it was over 40. What is it right now? 52. Yeah, it's pretty darn cold. Our high is 54 today. That's cold for us. Now, I know I've got friends all over the place. Let's see. In Spokane, where Emma is, it's 31. Greencastle's 55, though. It's actually warmer in Greencastle, Indiana, than it is. Connecticut is 45. Boston's 48. London, 42. 41. Bangkok is 72. But it's going to hit 88, so I don't feel too bad for them. Well, it's not raining this week, though. It's just cloudy and humid. It's got to be. I've never been to Bangkok. My cousin lives there, and that's why I have it there. He keeps saying, you got to come and visit. And I'm like, oh. So, but you still have to remind people, yeah. Let's see. What else is going on? Hey, Leo. Hey, buddy. Friend of... Oh, Holly's. Nice. Whoever you are. Holly's like, hey, I know you. Leo Miko 6. You got 6-shooter? Is that what that is? I was born and raised in San Pedro. Oh, and lived in Hermosa and Manhattan Beach as a kid. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Retro Cucamonga is nice. That's a nice area. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we talked about a lot of things. Get the spider capo off. Back to standard tuning. See that? So that I just went from kind of a raised kind of dadgad in E. So that would be what? E, B, E, A, B, E. E-bead. No, I don't know. E-bag. No. E-beg. E-bag-bee. E-bag-bee. I don't know. That's what that would be. So we talked about doing embellishments. When you want to try to, and again, I wouldn't try to learn all the strings at once, but maybe like, you just go on a fishing expedition. Play an E chord. You play an E and an A chord, and then play the low E string and the B on the A string, and just find all the notes in the key of E. You can play notes that are not in the key of E. You want to get kind of Phrygian on it, but this would be diatonic major. But you can do so many things. And so that can make this a little more interesting. Hey, Brian. Brian May was knighted recently. Interesting. By King Charles or Queen Elizabeth? Weird to say King Charles. And he didn't change his name when he became king. Isn't it standard operating procedure to actually change your name? Queen Elizabeth didn't do it though either. Like the Pope. So, and you could do things, like with the A chord, D chord, same kind of thing. If we're in the key of D. It's one of the questions I get the most is how do I embellish chords? How do I just make it more interesting than just playing? And again, that kind of betrays the whole notion of having a lot of strumming grooves. I mean, you still need to have a lot of strumming grooves. But like in all of that, of course, I was playing in 6/8, 2, 4, 5, 6. so I'm kind of, using open strings to kind of keep the groove going. With C, it's a little tougher because we don't really have a low C note, and a G, same thing. But with C, we can use that C and the E, the G string and the E string to kind of, you can do all sorts of stuff with them. But what I would suggest is just play the chord and go, what open strings do I have? Okay, I have G and E, and then, or take the play. So in other words, play a fretted string against an open string and see what you can come up with in the key. Actually, it's a great way to kind of come up with an intro for something. I have a song that I wrote. And that totally falls into that whole chord embellishment, fills and riffs kind of thing. It was well, you know this song. I sang it back when we were talking about songwriting. The opening line is autobiographical. I was born without depth perception, but I could always see the souls of men. We're shackled by a quiet desperation, empty and falling vessels of torment. But thanks to the street, I'll take the time. Time lost its hold on me now. Taking time and not giving it back. Taking time and not giving it back. Was it? Welcome to the Tom Strahle Show. Hi, I'm Glenn Campbell. Remember that? Oh, I love that guy. What a great singer, artist. I mean, he started out as a member of the Wrecking Crew, like me. Not really a member of the Wrecking Crew. I'm a grandson of the Wrecking Crew. I came out here because of the Wrecking Crew, but I never. It was kind of not a thing by the time I moved here in '83. But my friend Joe DeBlasi was given his career by Tommy Tedesco, who's a member of the Wrecking Crew, and then Tom and Joe kind of helped me with my career. So, I interviewed Joe. You can see that interview on my YouTube channel. Let me see if I can find it. I think you'd like. Joe's a great guy. DeBlasi. There it is. Not many views. I would love it to get more views. But it's like some of his credits, how he got started, his influences, playing for Segovia, his first session, being hired to be yourself, schooling, Tommy Tedesco, session work, sight reading tips, Tommy Tedesco stories, studio stories, Phil Spector, Bette Midler story, Pink Floyd, The Wall. He's got great stories. So this is that. Most of you have seen this. Most of my faithful followers of the Strahleites have seen it. But that's a Joe DeBlasi interview right there in the chat stream. There, the live chat. You can click on that link. I think it's still there. Leo says someone does have to, so why not us, right? Let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Where's? I think I missed the comment that Bruce was referencing. Yeah, music's great. I mean, it can be both a discouraging thing and a uplifting thing. I found that writing songs, in fact, that song's a perfect example of it. writing songs is good therapy. It's kind of like having a journal. You kind of write what you're going through. And some of the best songs in the world are written by the most heartbroken people in the world, or the most struggling people in the world. Some of the greatest songs. And so in that regard, I think music's very therapeutic. But also it can be very discouraging when you're like trying to get something down and you can't get it for whatever reason. There's definitely things like I'll never be able to do. And there probably some of those things are because I'm 61 years old, but now some of those things probably I never could have been able to do. I might not, like whatever, be a chef. Although I think that you could probably work hard enough to be a good chef, not a great chef. But there's definitely things that, where you can get a little discouraged. And what I try to do is I try to help you fight discouragement and just kind of look for the things that you can do and try to show you things that, some things are not that difficult. Yeah, there's things I play on guitar that are like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. It took me forever to get to this. But there are things where you can do to make music that doesn't have to be hard. And so, yeah, you can write a song with one chord. If you can play an E chord or an E minor chord or a D chord or a G chord, you can write a song. And it may just be a song for you. You don't need to ever play it for anybody, but there's certain satisfaction in finishing something. And we've done live streams and we talked about songwriting. And we even tried to write a song. It was really hard. It's really hard to just say, okay, now I'm going to write a song. Songs just kind of come to you sometimes, usually inspired by somebody else's song. Like that song, you probably never heard of them, but there was a band called the Plimsouls. Is that right? Is that what Peter Case? And Peter Case came out with this record that was kind of in LA in the late 80s. There was a kind of this cowboy country unplugged coffee shop thing that was happening. And my band was kind of doing that kind of thing. And so I found out about a friend of mine. I don't remember how I discovered Peter Case. Oh, I had a friend. I had a friend who I have a friend named Michael Case. I haven't seen him in years, but he lived in the Hollywood Hills, like right around the corner from Peter Case, and they kept getting each other's mail. And so they became friends. And I went to a party at Michael's house, and Peter Case was there. So I met him before I knew who he was in the band at the time. I think he was in the Plimsouls was the name of his band. And so I don't really know who that was very well. And then when I ran across a CD of his, I bought it, and I burned that thing out. It was a really good CD, and it definitely had me like writing in that kind of style, that kind of folk, unplugged, country, self-examining style. It was really fun. So a lot of my songs early on, now I don't really write songs anymore. I write with songwriters. Like I've said a million times before, I didn't really, I was writing songs, and my songs were my babies, and I wrote the melodies and the lyrics and the chords and everything. I had zero success. It wasn't until I started collaborating that I started to have a modicum of success in oh, he was in the Breakaways too? Okay, yeah. Plimsouls. Yeah, the record that he did, let's see, what was that called? Let's see if I can find the name of that record. Peter Case, discography. Yeah, I wonder what he's up to now. Yeah, that's him. Wow, that's an old picture though. He's still born in Buffalo. Oh, okay. Maybe it was just called Peter. No, that's not it. Man with a postman. Where was that? But he was part of that. Where's the discography? Here we go. Maybe. Six Pack of Love sounds familiar. No, it wasn't that. That was the one after. Okay. Yeah, it was the man with the blue postmodern fragmented traditionalist guitar. That's the name of the album. So, Peter Case. Hey, Pick Elephants. Hi again. Well, that's also true. And I've said in the past, you've heard me say this many times, if you really want to sound like another guitar player, uh-oh. Boop. Come here, focus. Focus, hello. I'm all blurry. Come on. Stay focused. Not you, the camera. Why is there we go. You can actually, you're almost more likely to be able to sound like Jimi Hendrix if you study his influencers. You're like, who influenced him? And then learn their playing and then arrive at Jimi Hendrix. It's a much more legitimate way of kind of getting there. It's like, I feel like Jimi Hendrix was a big influence on Stevie Ray Vaughan as well as Buddy Guy. So if you study Buddy Guy and Jimi Hendrix and you kind of mash those two together, you end up with kind of Stevie Ray Vaughan. So yeah, this it was recorded Ocean Way. I missed like records. This was a really well recorded record. T-Bone Burnett, who's a friend, did background vocals. Who produced it? Larry Hirsch, Steven Soul. Yeah, I don't know these people, but Peter Case did too. Mitchell Froome on organ. David Hidalgo from Los Lobos. Tim Keltner, who's played with all four Beatles individually. Was on. Jack Sherman played guitar. I think Jack Sherman might have been part of the Wrecking Crew. I don't know. No, he's too young. Oh, he died just recently. Huh. Heart attack. Bummer. Oh, did he play with he's the second guitarist with Jack Sherman. Okay, I'd never heard of him. Yeah, David Lindley played on this. He played bouzouki and violin. I didn't know David Lindley. Benmont Tench played on this record. I mean, it's good musicians. Ry Cooder played on it. T-Bone Burnett, Stephen Brutton. So a lot of good musicians on it. Victoria Williams sang on it. Well, I really like Victoria Williams. How's she doing? She's got MS. What she's up to. Poor thing. She's still alive. Where's she? Anyway, yeah, I've known Victoria for decades. I mean, she held Alex. She was one of the first people to hold Alex as a baby. I don't know if Alex knows that. I forget if Alex knows that. She wrote a song called Holy Spirit that's really good. We used to perform that at shows with a band. I think we recorded it too. But anyway, okay. It's been 2 hours. I'm going to sign off. Good showing, though. You guys kept it at 35. We got up to 43. Nice. Peak 42 peak there and a 43. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the love. And we'll continue on this subject. I'm just kind of riffing on it, but I'm always open to questions during the. Hit the like and subscribe. Thanks, thanks, Bob. Leo, I wrote several songs, some country-like, one gospel meaning company famous chant, "Oh, the blood of Christ, Jesus." Yeah, shuffle blues. I wrote a kind of an evangelical blues shuffle. What was it called? What was that called? I kind of like the song. Kind of like a blood on the tracks kind of thing. Because I mean, what a better person to write a blues song about than Jesus, right? The Wrecking Crew is on YouTube for free, so you can watch the Wrecking Crew on YouTube. Your internet's on. I don't think it's on, and there may be another movie called The Wrecking Crew, but this is the one that it's an okay movie. I think it's great, but it was Danny Tedesco's first documentary. I don't know if that he ever made a second, and it really just started out. His dad was kind of retiring, dying of cancer, or had cancer, and He wanted to just interview him and hear stories about the days when he was working. His dad was working. I should watch it again. It's been a while, but there's a lot of interviews. Interview with Nancy Sinatra, and I think Cher's in it and stuff. So a lot of people that were part of the Wrecking Crew had played on their hits and stuff. They talk about those songs. It took forever to make to get the movie released because he had, I think, 125 songs in it, and he needed to get permission. And every single song they play, you'll go, oh, I know that one. Oh, I know that one. Oh, I know that one. I mean, it's hardly, Beach Boys songs, and I think Jan and Dean, and even Frank Sinatra songs, and Elvis, I think even some Elvis songs were the Wrecking Crew. It's astonishing. And he also wanted to make sure that all the musicians got paid secondary market money for those sessions, because they're being used in a movie, so you need to get paid again, which is one of the benefits of having a song you play on put in a movie, because now you're on the movie contract and you get money from that. Because eventually, like the way it's set up now, and I don't really have union record sessions very often. It's very rare anymore. But what they do is they put all that, the record companies have to pay money into a pool, and then you get a piece of that money for 5 years. So if I do say a union session for Justin, and I get $1,500 for the day or something, then for the next 5 years I get whatever. So let's say my $1,500 represents 1/100th of 1% of the entire amount paid to musicians that year through the union. Then I get that percentage of the next year's thing, and then it goes down. I get 100%, 80%, 60%, 40%, 20%. It's been a few years since I've gotten any money from that market. But if a song I play on and it's a union thing gets put in a movie, now I'm on the movie contract, and that will play forever. So as long as that movie's making some money somewhere, then I'll get pennies for that. And it could be pennies or dollars or hundreds of dollars or more. You just never know. It depends on how many people are on the contract. But that's kind of how the business works. I wish I knew that back in the day. But I thought it was great, Pepper. I was amazed. I'm like, wow, Pepper's getting good. She's getting better. She's actually getting out in front of people. I thought it was really cool. So yeah, where's that link? If you want to post a link there, Pepper, I can approve it, or they can approve it. If you have a link to it again, and that way people can see it. But yeah, you were playing classical right now. You were off in the right. The musicians were off to the right. And I didn't watch the entire service, but I kind of scanned looking for music and heard you play. So I could hear guitar. So I'm assuming that was you. American football is just rugby with armor padding. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's funny because lately it's been like the last play of every close game ends up looking like rugby to me, where they just keep tossing the ball to each other, trying to get the ball in. It never works. NFL players are just too fast to get that kind of thing to work. It's not going to happen. But let's see. I wonder if Victoria Williams has an Instagram. It might be kind of sad to see her. All right. I've got to get going. I will talk to you all later. We're going to trying to make sure that I have all my things ready to go. I actually have to. I've got a new interface. I got this. I have the Apogee Duet. So I bought this one, RME. It's called the Babyface Pro. So we'll see. I tried to get it to work, and the software, the driver, Apple wasn't allowing it to be installed. So I have to figure out. They have instructions, and I thought I was doing what they asked me to do, which is hold down the power button until this certain window comes up, but it never came up. I mean, I held that power button down for minutes, and it just this window never came up, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing wrong? So, because I need to go into the system and give it permission to let this company put a driver in my system. So it's kind of a pain. I may end up having to hire a guy to come out and do it, but we'll see. Hate to do that if I can figure it out myself. It's probably one of those things where it's just like I didn't wait long enough. I got impatient. I say it was 3 minutes and it was 4 seconds. It felt like 3 minutes. Anyway, Happy New Year. Have a blessed week, and I will see you next Monday. We'll try to set up a Zoom thing. I know somebody here has like Zoom Pro, so they can host it and we can all go on and be on for longer than 40 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever. So okay, all right, take care, everybody. God bless. Bye.